Hi, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Ammiel.
We love video games and movies, and we love talking about them.
So we are hosting a new podcast where every week we choose one video game and one movie to talk about.
We will go through each click and flick from beginning to end and talk about what we like and don't like. And then we will give you a rating based completely on our own opinions and nothing else. Ciao. Yes.
It's going. Okay.
Yay!
Episode 2
Dose
of the Click and Flick podcast.
Click and Flick. Welcome back.
Ready to get your clickin' and flickin'.
Get your clicks and flicks here.
Yeah, folks. The best clicks and flicks are on right here.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So, do you want to start with the flick this time?
Okay, we can do that and then we'll go on to the click.
Yeah, because I have a lot to say about this flick.
Oh my gosh. So do I. Can I tell you that I saw this movie in theaters. It was the last movie I saw before the quarantine.
Really?
So it was literally February, I think I saw it the end of February, very, very end of February. And then it was 2 weeks. Sorry. And then it was 2 weeks. And then quarantine in March, right? It was the middle of March.
Wow. So that's when it came out. It came out March 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No. It came out, I saw it really late. It came out in 2019.
Okay.
But I saw it late because I had seen it after it already was, people were talking about it and stuff. So I saw it in theaters in February. And then we went on lockdown in March. Sorry, I totally had a brain pause in the middle.
You're allowed to, that's fine.
I know that you're muting so that I don't hear background noise and stuff, but when you cut out, it cuts out all the noise and I'm all
You're like, what
I
happened?
have a small panic attack.
Oh no, okay.
And I'm
I'll refrain.
Did it cut out totally? No, I mean if there's something going on that you need to mute, no worries. But Okay, so this movie Uncut Gems. I first started hearing about it because everyone was saying how great Adam Sandler is in this movie. How great of an actor he is. Everyone's like, oh, he does such a great job. And everyone was like, oh, the Academy really snubbed Adam Sandler because he deserved to be nominated for this role and yada, yada, yada.
Interesting, to say the least.
This film invoked... Now, so my first time watching it, I walked away, I guess, not really knowing what to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a year and a couple months ago. And so now I watch it again and now I think I'm thinking a lot about it. Really?
Okay. So, because my brain, pretty much the same. My I don't want to downplay my intelligence, but I was sitting there. I mean, I could comprehend everything that was going on. Mm-hmm. However, it was so chaotic, I couldn't process before the next scene started. So it was just literally a swirling tornado.
It was sensory overload for a lot of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just, chaos is such a perfect word for it because this movie is just, it feels so chaotic and this is my okay, so let's go through what the movie
is.
Let's go through the plot. So it opens up in these mines in Ethiopia. Is that right? Oh, crap, I should have double-checked everything.
I don't remember. I think there were subtitles to say so.
Yes, okay. So the whole premise is opening up with these Ethiopian miners. And the whole thing is because Adam Sandler is Jewish and his character is Jewish. And he has... These Jewish miners in Ethiopia that he's in contact with, that he gets this expensive rare gem from. But the thing is that the movie opens up with these miners, and it's literally showing this guy's leg, this guy got injured in the mines. Just working, mutilated. And this guy's leg is it's just like the first shot. It's like desert scene, yada yada, and then it's like zoom in on this like bloody leg.
And everybody was really pissed. They were pissed at the people that were wearing the hard hats because they were carrying, I'm assuming, what was their friend or their family or whatever, somebody they knew well. They were carrying this person like they're in excruciating pain. They're all livid and like yelling and pointing to the guys with the hard hats. Just in like utter like, you better help him or I'm gonna find you. You know what I mean? That's the vibe I got.
I don't know what they were yelling about.
I don't either.
But it's just, like you said, chaos. And then it starts going through then the camera does this like zoom in into the gem, right? And it's like, goes from the gem to like Adam Sandler's asshole, like
he's on the operating table as he's getting an endoscopy.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that ever.
I thought it was an ear canal at first.
And he's just like, yes, this is your colon. This is where shit lives. And Adam, I'm glad it's healthy, but I never ever wanted to see it ever.
I know. Oh my God. Hear that.
But I believe that maybe it's a foreshadowing or a metaphor to what his character is, which is just a fucking asshole the whole movie.
Oh, okay. Yes, absolutely.
So perhaps that's what they were going for, or perhaps I'm giving them more credit.
More credit, yeah, more than they deserve. But
but who knows?
Didn't they take a biopsy of something in there? They were worried about something in there.
Okay, so I guess later on they have a conversation where the doctor calls him back and says, "Oh, you don't have cancer."
Oh, I see.
And then he goes, "Okay, I just wanted to make sure because my dad had it," or something.
Oh, got it.
And so, which is like something the doctor would have already known. And so he didn't really need to say that in that conversation, I'm sure.
Right.
I'm sure him and the doctor had that conversation before. But they needed to let the audience know. So
apparently, yeah.
So that's why the movie opens up with his
endoscopy.
The inside of his butthole. Which some people, I guess, would really like that. Some people, that's what they want.
That's their thing. That's their niche, Yeah.
And then it just shows him at his work. He works at a diamond store. Diamond store, like gems and jewelry. And
stuff.
But it seems like he's like kind of high end. Like he deals in the rare stuff. He's not just like in a strip mall.
Right.
There's like,
because there's a locking door. There's a locking
multiple
lobby.
Like security measures to get into the building. It looks like he's pretty high end. Yeah. But pretty soon we find out that he is super duper in debt from a gambling addiction. Yes. So that winning check number 1 for this character. Like,
yeah. And then
oh my goodness.
He just so happens to be in an affair. Well, not an affair.
So here's what I gather is that this girl this young girl, which don't even get me started. I am so 100% sick and fucking tired
Me
of
too.
seeing Adam Sandler and all his friends casting themselves opposite of
Yep.
these 20-year-old girls in every freaking movie any of those guys have been in since
Yeah.
SNL. Look at their partners. Besides grown-ups where they're like married to people who are only probably 10 years younger than them.
If that, yeah. If that.
Every other movie, any
Yeah.
romantic love, like they're dating these girls that literally grew up watching Waterboy, and like I
True.
and so what I gather is that this girl that works at the shop, he probably cheated on his wife with her, Idina Menzel, who's also way younger than him. Like,
yes. Yes. Not by a lot, but like
I want to look
she's-
that.
she's
I want to
younger.
look up. I
will.
want to see.
I got you.
Okay, so he ends up. So this is what I gather is that he probably cheated on his wife, and then she kicked him out. He got an apartment, and then this girl moved in with the apartment with him, but they're not telling the kids because she doesn't want the kids to think differently of their father or something, because the kids don't know about this girl.
Right.
But apparently mom, I think mom does.
Yeah, she's like accepted it now.
Right. Like she's so over him, which is like good. Like she's my favorite character, and I love Idina Menzel. I
too.
always like from everything.
Yeah.
She always plays like a strong woman who is just like not there to take people's shit.
Yep. Yep. But you know what she did though? That's so the scene where he comes home and she's like, "Go upstairs, go to bed with your son." See, I don't know why this rang such a bell with me, but when she was like, "Go up there and say goodnight to your son," and he was still awake, and Adam Sandler was laying on the floor next to his bed watching the basketball game because of his gambling addiction. And his son was just like, "Bro, like, I know what you're doing." He's sitting up in bed, like, watching him. I was so heartbroken. And then she yelled at him to go upstairs. But then when he came back down, as she was watching TV, he asked her to put on the game again in the living room. And she was just like, "Fine." I don't know why it irritated me so much, because I wanted to light his ass on fire. I was
Okay, so really
mad.
quick, before
Yeah.
we get to that part, I want to talk about this relationship, because after we find out about him, like we found out where he works and his gambling addiction, all that. So he goes home to his apartment and sees his 20-year-old girlfriend in bed, like on her phone, like scrolling through probably like whatever. I don't
Right.
whatever this year is set, probably Vine, because this is
Right.
before The Weeknd is big.
Right.
This is, I think, set a couple years. Let me check the year.
I think it was 2012. I think that's when I saw in the subtitle.
Okay, so before Vine, but
Oh, okay.
she's scrolling through something like Instagram or Facebook, probably. They're looking at memes with her friend, and he comes in and immediately starts yelling at her like,
Oh, yeah.
get the fuck up, you're taking advantage of me, blah blah blah, get the fuck up. I'm like,
You were partying in my apartment.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you are the one who decided to date a child. So
Yep.
what are you expecting, sir?
Yep.
What do you expect from this young woman?
Not only that, but she treats him like a child. So she goes, "Okay, come here. Come here,
And
play
then
with
she's
me."
the mom, and she's like,
Yeah.
and it's just this awful, horrible, like, it's just a
Yeah.
nasty, negative relationship for
They-
both of them.
I can't tell whether it's genius or it's disgusting beyond belief, because I was genuinely uncomfortable. I was just like, I don't like this. And I feel like that was their point, but
I think so,
yeah.
because honestly, if anybody looks at that and is like, goals,
Right. Right.
Red flag, ladies, stay the fuck away.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's like, so this whole relationship with her just is so ridiculous to me.
I agree.
And he comes in, he's like, why aren't you at work yet? And I'm like, what is this relationship to? Because he's her boss. It's like power dynamic a billion, because
in all facets.
Because he's also like really rich, you know what I mean? Like he can, and so so what really pisses me off about their relationship is the scene that he is having her like send him pictures of her and telling her that he's in the cab on his way home.
Yeah.
When really he is in the closet watching her. And this scene like offended me so much when I was in the movie theaters that this is the only scene that I could really think about walking out of that movie.
So it's stuck with you.
I was like, in what world is a woman's biggest fear romantic? Who would write that in a scene? Like, who would put that in a script and then, like, her only reaction is like, oh, you. I'm like,
I know.
Fucking no. I'm
I
sorry,
know.
but every girl I know that lives alone is terrified of somebody else being in her apartment when she gets home.
Yeah.
That would be...
It was such an unnatural reaction.
If it was someone who I loved and cared about and they, in their dumb brain... First of all, if I would ever love and care about someone that fucking dumb, red flag. To think that would be a good idea. But if by chance I did, because, you know, I've dated some real shitheads anyway... They were like, oh, great idea. Let me do this and, like, reenact this, like, biggest fear of, like, rape and murder that every woman has to live in constantly every day.
Right. And make it a reality for 2 seconds. Like, it was such an ingenuine reaction.
My reaction to that in the moment would be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And why would you think that's a good prank? Never do that. Don't you realize that I was already afraid of that happening from the time I left my work, getting to my car, and then getting to my car from this to the apartment, and then getting into the apartment, and then checking all the rooms to make sure nobody else was in here. Like,
right.
But of course, I don't think that scene was written by anyone who's lived through that kind of experience.
Probably not. Which is unfortunate because they just...
So they, in their brains, think, how romantic. And then she goes, oh, you startled me. Ha, ha, ha. Okay, let's have sex. And I'm like, And on top of that, on top of recreating my biggest fear... Now is the question of, okay, you're lying to me and getting pictures of me naked with me consenting to misinformation, which is coercion, which is not consent. So now you're, first of all, like, there's so much about that scene that makes me so mad. And the thing is that everything he does in this movie is despicable. Everything. This, like, gambling addiction, every choice he's made is not a good choice. Yep. And this scene is another example of just another thing that he's doing that's wrong. But for some reason, this scene seems to feel like this character's is supposed to be a redeeming thing of this character, like how romantic he is with his partner. Like, I'm like, no. This is just another example of the inside of his colon. Like, like that's who he is as a person.
Right.
He's just a shithead. And anybody who thinks that that's a good idea, just please
reconsider.
Reevaluate.
Reevaluate.
No, it's not a good idea.
There was a lot of like you just piggybacking on what you said, trailing off of the constant theme of just terrible situations turning into worse situations and then turning into very unrealistic endings, and it was just, I had enough.
It was like purposely like suspenseful in ways that were like, it was just purposely chaotic, which I feel like that's the word that's gonna just keep coming back, is because that's anytime something happened, it was like the next choice was like, okay, how do we make this scene more chaotic?
Right.
Right. And oh my god, like eventually doesn't a person learn? And I guess maybe not, right? Like, is he a guy, like, I not fucking know. Like, it's sad to me that there are guys in the world that really are like this character that Adam Sandler is, and they die not getting better and not becoming better people.
I don't even, I can't even attest because I didn't follow through. I did not watch the whole thing. I couldn't.
Okay. So yeah. I'm sorry. So I'll let's go back. So the next part of the movie is, so he's in his shop and he has like a business partner who brings in Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett from what team does he play on?
The Celtics.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Oh, because they're all in Boston.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize Boston. Got it.
Okay. So Kevin Garnett, and he's like the main. This is like the main part of the This is like the main plot, like inciting incident, basically. So he ends up falling in love with the gem that came from Ethiopia. That's this really expensive gem, blah, blah, blah. And Adam Sandler. But here's the thing, that Adam Sandler is so fucking dumb in this movie. I keep calling him, I know his name's not, his character's name, not Adam Sandler, but whatever. I feel bad saying Adam Sandler's dumb, but I know it's not him. He's probably not
right.
dumb, like him as a person. But Adam Sandler's character is so dumb because he's like his guy, his business partner is basically like, hey, I'm bringing in Kevin Garnett, and like, why are you why are you showing him all this crap? Like, why do you think he's gonna buy that? Like, look, he's looking for something to buy. Right. Show him something cool. And so Adam Sandler's like, oh, I have the perfect thing. And he goes back and gets this uncut gem, and then comes out and goes, oh, look at this, and like sells it really good. And then Kevin Garnett is like, oh, I'll take it. And he's like, oh, wait, it's not for sale. I'm like, you were literally asked to go back and find something for him to buy.
I know.
You come out and do a sales pitch, and then you say, oh, wait, no, I have to give it up for auction. How is this plot? Like,
I was going to say, that's the whole plot. It's just him losing the fucking gem to Kevin Garnett.
And I'm like, are you insane, brother? Like, what? Why? In what world in your brain you think, oh, someone's asking me to go back and find something cool for him to buy? Let me go find something not for sale? Dude, what?
I know. How did he end up getting the ring, the basketball ring from him? How did that happen?
Okay, so then he goes, well, oh, I want to buy it. No, it's not for sale. He goes, okay, well, let me borrow it for good luck for this game.
Oh, I see.
And he's like, well, then it's like a pawn shop type of exchange thing. So he gave him his championship ring.
Oh. Got it. Okay.
And
Okay.
oh God, and he's so arrogant and aggressive this whole movie. It's just like bad decision after bad decision of him being the one in the wrong. Like him getting mad at people for him being in the wrong.
Yeah, and getting mad that people are fed up with his shenanigans just over and over again. They're like, I'm
Right.
over it. His
Right.
name's Howard.
Howard.
That's what it was.
Howie. Ew. Yes. Okay, so so then we meet his wife. We find out his home life isn't great, and that's when they have the whole confrontation that you mentioned earlier with her.
Right.
The basketball game and everything. So that whole thing, him and his wife, she is like done with him.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, but what makes me so exhausted is looking at her character and thinking about how many fucking years she was putting up with his bullshit.
With 3 kids.
I am exhausted for her thinking about him like lie after lie after lie and just like gambling away all their money and getting into debt. She probably is just like so fed up.
As I think anybody would be in that situation. And, you know, props to her character being willing to put on a face for her kids. Because her kids their kids don't already like him. And
Right.
you can see it. It's evident. I mean, the boys are a little bit more resilient, but the girl, the oldest...
So the scene with the daughter kind of made me, it just like kind of reinforced to me that, okay, I'm wondering, because the way the daughter came in and he was like, "Are we okay?" And she's like,
Yeah, like, what are you talking about?
she's like, "What are you talking about?" Like, whatever. I couldn't tell if her responses back were like sarcastic enough in the sense like, I am mad at you and don't want to talk to you because I know what you're doing, or if they were supposed to be like, because at certain points it seems like that, but then it would follow up with something she'd say that make me feel like, wait, like, is this character supposed to just be like, is she just passive and she's supposed to be just like a teen girl who's like disconnected and on her phone? Because the very last thing she said, because the reason I say that is because none of the things are like so like poignantly sarcastic to him that it feels like, it just feels like it's always almost getting there. And I'm like, is it passive or is it passive or is it passive aggressive?
Right.
And then when she's leaving, she's talking to her friend on the phone again. She's like, anyway, so you know how I have a resting bitch face? I'm like, okay, so is that confirmation that the character is just supposedly supposed to be like that and she's just being passive? Because in that case, I don't buy that interaction with her dad, because she would be pissed at her dad.
Right. Right. I think
and
she was
I feel like with how expressive her mom is, as a teenager, if she was mad at her dad and knew that, like, the sarcasm, I feel like could have seeped out stronger to reinforce that she is mad at him specifically, and she's not just a passive teenager to everything, because even the mom didn't really have like anything to say about whether she's like that all the time, or oh well, she's like that because of you, or like the mom didn't clarify like whether or not this is normal behavior for the teenager. Or so that scene made me like, what is this dynamic? But the truth is, it didn't matter, because that was the only scene she was in. So there's other, like, he doesn't like really interact with her again in the movie. So like her relationship to him doesn't matter.
Wow. Wow.
So,
So
I guess
superficial.
that's just gonna be up in the air for us to wonder. So yeah, that's
I also feel like, not to give theater kids again a one up, but because she's in theater,
that's true because this interaction happens after their play. So
right.
so I guess at their play, he's like sitting with his wife and they're talking like with the other parents as if nothing's wrong or whatever, and they're not telling anybody.
He's
And then
also preoccupied too, I think, on his phone or something.
he's like texting or something and looking at whatever his own, making another bad decision. He gets kidnapped from the play. He ends up going outside. He gets called outside for some reason. Maybe it's these people who were like, we need to talk or whatever. I don't remember what the reason. Is that why?
Yep. Yeah, the people that were after him because they were sick of his shit,
He owed them a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And they'd been following him. They'd hit him up a few times. It's these people who we found out we see earlier. It's the same people. They end up, like, kidnapping him a little bit, driving him around, like, getting him scared, beating him up, stripping him naked. This is the point where we find out that the guy who he owes money to is his brother-in-law, right? Mm-hmm. So now we know that, now it's, like, in the family too, and yada yada. Yeah. So now he's pissed, like, obviously, because now he's also cheating on his sister, or is it his wife's sister? I can't remember.
I can't recall because, again, hecticness, chaoticness.
I know, it was so chaotic, and honestly, I didn't.
I know. It's small details that...
So all these little things, and he ends up, they strip him naked, lock him in his trunk, and he calls... Oh my God.
His wife.
He calls his wife, who has the best moment in the whole movie at this part. And the best moment is when she's running out of the school. So he calls her and says, hey, I locked my keys in the trunk. Can you come pop it so I can get them? And she's like, so she runs out, but she's like in high heels. So she's doing these like little run steps and her arms are just like straight out in front of her, just slightly bent. And she's like kind of shimmying back and forth as she runs. And it's just the funniest, like honestly... highlight of the movie. I'm living for the way Idina Menzel is running out to the car in the parking lot.
I needed to see her more in the movie.
Yes. And she pops the trunk open, sees that it's him naked, and immediately you see, like, oh my God, you see the years of betrayal come into her eyes once again. Yeah. And immediately she's like, this is why I'm fucking done.
Yeah.
This
and then
isn't.
Just walks away.
And she turns around and she does the same run immediately back.
That's right.
She just is all like she's like, no time for this man and his shenanigans.
Yeah.
So then after that is when he has the confrontation with the daughter. And
I stopped the movie shortly after this.
Okay. So after he has this confrontation with the daughter, then he ends up trying to get the gem back from Kevin Garnett. And from his, like, business partner who is friends with Kevin Garnett. And he's like, okay, so... and they're not business partners. I keep saying business partners, but they're, like... He's just, like...
Like a pawn. He's kind of like a pawn.
Yeah, he's like a... he's like a vendor, maybe.
Yeah,
is like the best that you maybe... So he just, like, finds people to, like... Middleman.
Yeah.
So he's trying to talk to him and get this gem back from Kevin Garnett, and he's trying to. So he meets him at this concert. So this is in 2012, and so The Weeknd, who's this up and coming artist, yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, ooh, wow, there's this new guy called The Weeknd. This movie came
Yeah.
out in 2019. And so
Yeah.
it's like so it's so
I
funny.
can't
But
even explain the feelings that I had because
it
I was
makes me
just
wonder how many people is like The Weeknd their first choice, or did they try to get like someone like someone else who popped off big, like, yeah, there's
like,
this new artist Lil Nas X. Like,
right, right, and he was like, "No, I'm not doing that."
But like, I wonder how many like people they like went through
Yeah.
before, or if The Weeknd was their first choice, because then hey, good for them.
Yeah,
You know?
true.
But so they're at the concert for The Weeknd, but it's in this like small club, and Adam Sandler's child bride is the like she's like his friend who's like did photography for him and stuff, and so she's like in the bathroom with him, and he's like saying shit to her like, oh my god, I want to fuck you so bad, and she's like up on him, like,
yeah, and
with
at
her
first she's
face,
like, I told you no, like, don't
with her
touch
face
me.
like super close, and she's like, no, I said no. Which is like that portrayal that guys love of
Yeah.
the woman who wants you so bad but keeps saying no. Guys, that doesn't exist. If she's saying no, she doesn't want you. Okay?
Right,
Let's just
right.
make that clear. If she wants you,
100%.
she won't say no. If she's saying no, just stop.
There's like hesitation, and you're putting pressure on that person to make the decision.
No girl in her head is like, wow, I really want to have sex with him, but he has to
But I'm gonna say no.
he has to really, really, really want it, so I'm gonna make sure that I'm like saying no,
Right.
just to check. No.
Right.
And if that, I mean, in the case that is what that woman is thinking, just leave her alone and let her find a therapist.
Right, like,
because she's been hurt too many times by guys
Yep.
like you, and
Yep.
so she thinks that's all she can do now. So
yeah. Be an activist with it. Be proactive.
it's time we stop writing scenes in movies where the woman is on top of the man, wanting him, clearly making physical signals of like advancement and saying the words no, I don't want to do this. This is
Yeah.
ugly and dumb. I don't like it.
Unless it was a movie that it was appropriate for in order to express that situation. You know, not for comedic purposes, not to
Not to
put a
romanticize it.
Yeah, not to romanticize it. Exactly. It's just not.
But the way
Not
that the
okay
movies
anymore.
portray it of her, like, with her physical language is saying, like, all of the moves of yes, wanting it.
Uh-huh.
And then with her words saying, no, I told you no.
And she said it like 6 times.
That's
like,
so, like, why
Not
is
just
that
once.
being written in? Why is that, like,
I know.
scene being perpetuated? Because then guys think that they're not, like, guys literally think that they're not R-ing girls.
she's saying no, but she means yes. Like,
Because
no.
they also aren't actually aware of physical, that
I know.
in real life, the physical signs are missing. And you're just hearing the words no.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this girl's obviously messed up.
Yeah.
Her life is obviously,
In the wrong direction, in the wrong spot.
I feel like, been used so many times. Like, she's in a relationship with an abuser.
Yeah.
So that can only show herself, like,
Right.
I feel like I want to rephrase that a little bit. It's not
Rephrase.
like her, like there's something wrong with her, but being in a relationship with an abuser can make you so,
Right.
like, question yourself, and she's probably been gaslit for her whole life.
Yeah.
I just feel like her decisions aren't really her decisions.
And it's very apparent. It's very apparent in the first couple of scenes that you see her in anyway. And same with the closet scene. It's very apparent. Yeah.
And same with anything because then he walks in he finds her in the bathroom, and then he comes out, yells at her, screaming, yelling, blah, blah, blah. You slut, you skank. I never want to see you again. It's over. I want you out of the apartment. Yada, yada, yada. And then he goes home. And then the next morning he calls her and is like, where are you? Where are you?
Why aren't you at work?
You never wanted to see me again. That's where I am, not seeing you. And so and then he gets mad at her for not being at work and hangs up on her, yells at her again on the phone, hangs up on her. So it's her fault again that he's making bad decisions with every part of his life.
Yeah.
And he threw her smoothie on her.
When was that?
She at some point she ran to work finally after he yells at her to make things better. But she had a smoothie, and he's like, "Oh, you stopped to get a smoothie. It's not important to you," and throws it on her.
Wow. I didn't know that happened. I must have stopped it right there.
It was right after. It's in the middle of the movie, so it must have been right.
Because at this point, then Kevin Garnett had shown up back to Howard's work to give him the opal back, but he wanted his ring back in return. Mm-hmm. But he didn't have the ring because he pawned it. And so it must have been, that scene was after that, huh? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it.
So that happened. So he wanted his ring back, but Howard pawned it. Yada yada. So
and he was like, "Bro, I don't have your ring."
So then later on, and this is then the scene that I want to talk about, because later on, then again, he's at family's house. It's a family, I believe it's Passover, because they're going over the plagues of Egypt. So I think that the last one is the one where they do the blood of the lamb's blood over their door, and that's the whole Passover thing. So I believe they're celebrating Passover, and it's the whole family's there. So he's there with the mom, and since no one knows they're getting divorced yet, everyone's like, "Oh, we're putting on this fake show for everybody."
Got it. Oh no.
And so Idina Menzel, as beautiful as she is, this character is like, "Oh my gosh, I still fit in my bat mitzvah dress." So this scene is written for Idina Menzel, and the dress that she's in is literally it's
oh no.
The top is cut like a woman, but then it's short skirt above her knees, and I'm like, is that supposed to make it look like she grew taller since she was 13? But also she's a woman now, so her body is a different shape than it was when she was 13, and it wouldn't have been. I'm like, okay, so if there's anybody out there who's had 3 kids and still fits in your bar mitzvah dress, let me know. Bat mitzvah dress, let me know. And maybe I'm wrong. But this
I'm looking at the dress right now.
This plot line of, so she still fits in the dress, yada yada, and then he comes in and sees her and is like, "Did I make a mistake? I love you. Should we be together?
Get out."
And she looks at him and just literally starts laughing in his face.
Really?
And she was like, "You are the most annoying person in the whole world."
You're
she
a
was
joke.
I hate the way you look. I hate the way you sound. I hate the way you smell. I hate when you're in my life.
Oh.
And she just laughed at him. And I was like,
yes. I'm living for it. I will continue to rewatch this movie for that scene alone.
You just watch Idina Menzel's scenes. She's the only reason to watch this movie. So she just basically is like, "Are you?" But the fact that he is that he looks at her and is like trying to be all sincere, and he's so fucking lost. Like,
he is.
dude, you're never gonna be happy. He's never gonna be happy, my friend. And
did it ever
sad.
conclude, like, or even remotely touch on why he is the way that he is?
There's no like backstory. There's no like when he was a child. There's no what am I thinking?
There's no meat to the bones. There's no
There's no explanation for why he's the way he is. He's just a regular guy. Like, this could happen to anyone. This? You know, it's just he's just had a bad day. So it's just bad decision after bad decision. Finally, everything starts piling up and catching up with him, right?
Right.
So he's like, this is the day of the auction. I need to get it to auction or else they're not going to sell it. So I need to get it back from Kevin Garnett, but I have to go get this pawn and blah, blah, blah. And he... Sorry, I keep getting lost because this movie is so chaotic that trying to relive it again, I'm just like, so what? So when was that again? But
no, I get it. I completely get it.
Okay, so day of the auction, they're saying, like, where is it, dude? And he's like, and then he's trying to pull this shit with the auction people who are professionals. They're not going to take your fucking lies, your manipulation, your misinformation, like. And he's like, oh, yeah, I have it. I'm looking at it right now. And she's on the phone like, I need to be looking at it. What the fuck do you mean you're looking at it right now? It needs to be here. Today's like, he's like, I'll get it. And she's like, it's either get it here today or it's not happening. So he finally goes down to Kevin Garnett to get it back, but forgets the ring. And is like, oh, I left it here, blah, blah, blah. I promise I'll go get it. But first, he comes in yelling at Kevin Garnett, like, and the team, like, I need to get that opal. I need it right fucking now. He got blah, 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 blah. And then he's all like
he's doing 90% of the movie.
And then he's like, okay, so give me the ring. And he's all, oh, shit. Oh, please have understanding. I left it in thing, blah, blah, blah. Please have compassion for me. I left it in Long Island. Just give me the opal. I need it. And I'm like, you're going to come in yelling and then exactly turn around and be like, this guy, like. And so he eventually gets it. He eventually gets it. And he's like, okay, you can come. Kevin Garnett wants to buy it. You can come buy it from the auction. Finally gets it. He brings it back to the auction. And then he gets pissed off that it's revalued to be a lot lower than it originally was. So he's mad. He's like, I was supposed to get $1 million on it, and he ended up getting like 200. Like, it was valued to be between 100 and 200,000. He was like, no, blah, blah, blah. So then he tries to get his friend to push up the bid. So now he's telling his friend to bid the money and to make it go up higher for the auction. And so his friend is going against Kevin Garnett, and they go 160,000, 170, 175, 180, 190. And Adam Sandler is being greedy and keeps going, yeah, keep pushing it more and more. And it ends up, his friend has the highest bid. Of course, Kevin Garnett now is not going to cover it. And he goes, and so now now he's like screwed. So now it's like he's paying 190. So now he bet it for 190. He tells his friend, like, I'll pay you the money to pay for it or whatever. But it's like just another bad decision.
Because now he owes his friend money.
Right. So now he calls Kevin Garnett and tells him everything. Tells him what happened. I don't know if tells him what happened, but he's like, I have it to sell to you. It's sell for 175. And so Kevin Garnett goes in and takes it, and he's like, dude, like, I wanted to buy this from you. You were like, no, it has to go to auction. then you have someone else come and bid against me, and now you want to sell it to me. And he's like, so he like buys it from him, and he's like, he was like, how much did you pay for this? The deal's over, like it's mine, like I bought it. Just tell me how much you really paid for it. And Adam Sandler's like trying to be like, well, it's not just money, it's like months of my time and my work and fighting and blah blah blah. He's like, just be straight with me. How much did you pay? How much did you pay? And he was like, he ends up saying like, oh, I paid $100,000 for it. And he's like, so you paid these miners in Ethiopia $100,000 for something you thought was worth $1 million. Like, he was like,
wow,
you don't see anything wrong with that.
Right.
And Adam Sandler's like, well, $100,000 to them is a lot of money. And Kevin Garnett's like, but $1 million is more. Like, dude.
A lot more. That's 1,000% more.
And so it's just like another, like everything just keeps getting uncovered of how this guy's like shitty guy. So he has this money, and then he starts like talking to Kevin Garnett about it, and he's like, well, I gotta do what you gotta do, and I'm like you, and you want to win by 30 points, right? Not just 1 point. So this is my game. This is blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, and then he starts like talking in circles and starts going crazy, and is like, I know that you're like me, and I'm winning today, and you're going to win today, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend all this money. I'm going to bet it on you, and blah, blah, blah. So he took all of the money that Kevin Garnett just paid him for this stone. And then while he's in there doing this exchange, the goons come back to the store and are trying to like catch him, but he's in the back office, and he's like, don't let them in. So he ends up getting them in the, like, I think they're getting them in like the glass door, and locking them in there at some point. But before all that happens, he has his girlfriend go over, and like he sneaks the money to her so she can go place 170 whatever, all this money on Kevin Garnett, and
wow,
the Celtics to win. And it's so much right here at the end.
It's so then trying to everything's piling up. Ends.
So everything's piling up, and she goes and places the bet in Vegas, and Kevin Garnett goes and plays the basketball game, and these guys come in, and the goons Adam Sandler ends up locking them in the like security booth before it enters the store, and he locks them in, and it's like hot, and like they're like suffocating in there, and he's like, I'll let you out as soon as the game's over. And he's like, I'm betting on this game. And he's like, so all this happens, and it's like really chaotic, and it's going back and forth between the goons in there, and then some of them went to follow the girl to make the bet, so now they're looking for her in the casino, and it's cutting back and forth and to the game. And every time something happens in the game, it's like a good thing. And Adam Sandler's like, yes, we needed that. That's a good shot, blah, blah, blah. And it's going up and up and up until the end of the game. Finally, the buzzer rings and everything. Celtics win, and Kevin Garnett made all the points and all the rebounds and yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And he makes all this like huge bet, wins, and makes all this money. And so everyone in the casino now starts like, oh, wow, this girl made a huge bet and won all this money, blah, blah, blah. And so the goons are looking for her, and he ends up now letting the guys in there in the little hotbox room that they're like, oh my God, I can't believe they won. Wow, he really did it. He made all that money. Like hard work and persistence pays off, like kind of idea. And the music is like, da-na-na-na-na-na. Like it's like crazy, right? And he unlocks the booth to let the goons out, to be like, oh, we're all friends now because I won the bet.
Oh my God.
And the main goon immediately walks out, opens the door, walks out, and boom, shoots him right in the head. And he falls over and his just body. And then it's chaos in the store, and the main goon's going, hey, you guys, get this and blah, 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 get this, get these gems, get the security cameras, make sure there's no blah, blah, blah. And his brother-in-law is like, what'd you do? You blah, 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 blah. And he tries to escape, and he shoots him too, so now both of them are dead. The girl who made the big bet, she met this old guy at the casino who kept flirting with her. So she used him. She used him and asked him to protect herself, basically asked him to pick up all the money, and then he brought it to her in her car, and he basically brought it to her and was like, okay, do you want a drink now? And she's like, no, thank you, and walked away. And I'm pretty sure that guy would be a little bit more persistent after doing all that. He'd probably grab her or something. Like, it's not the real world that he'd just, like, accept that she would say no after all that. It's like, but whatever, that's the story they wanted to tell.
Yeah,
and so
honestly.
she ends up with all this money, and then it cuts back to, like, it's still a bunch of chaos, and then and it cuts back to, like, the family, and Idina Menzel's talking to, like, her sisters, like, she seems worried. She's like, I don't know where he is, like, I found him once naked in the trunk of a car, like, she's and it's like, and then it's like, zooms in, then it goes back to Adam Sandler's eyeball or something, and it's, like, zooming in on his eye, and then it's, like, the same kind of camera shot of, like, the jewel. Right? And that's the whole movie. So if you feel like watching something, if you don't get enough assholes in real life, watch this movie.
Oh. I have a few things just to add.
Go ahead.
I genuinely, like, I love Adam Sandler to death. I adore him. I really do. I grew up with his movies. His humor is very similar to mine.
I don't want to watch him be an asshole. I don't want to watch him be the bad guy. Like,
I don't want to watch him be an asshole, but I also don't want to watch a movie where every twist and turn in the movie is a constantly terrible mistake. Just everything everything he did in that movie was just why the fuck? No, it's not good. I couldn't stand it.
Exactly. It was
very interesting, though. It was very interesting to see that filming style. The writing was really interesting, but that was it. I was just like, who would make a movie like this? Who could literally stand in an editing room with all of those chaotic conversations and think, yes, this is my vision. Like,
this is the message I want to put out into the world.
This is the message. And are they going to understand it? Maybe not. But
I'm an artist.
I'm an artist. It's abstract. And I mean, to each their own. Everybody has a story to tell and a vision to show, and I respect that. And I also respect my boundaries of being sensory overload trying to watch a movie.
For real. So when you told me you only watched the first hour, I was like, I get it.
I understand.
It is so much, and it is so hard just to watch somebody. It's so hard to watch the kind of person who you would never want in your life.
Right.
To, like, willingly have them in your life for 2 hours.
That's a good way to put it. Definitely. I think I could watch the other half, like, on a different day. I definitely couldn't do it in one sitting. Yeah. But I really want to watch the rest of it.
Yeah. So I think, everything being said, I just don't see a need for stories anymore where the main character is someone who doesn't get better, who doesn't learn.
Yeah.
If you're connecting with somebody, how do I say this? If the protagonist is someone that you are, the protagonist of a story is someone that you typically are like, oh, relating to. You need to be able
Right.
to see their humanity.
Right.
Let them get better. Let them learn.
Mm-hmm.
Stop making it seem like it's okay and acceptable for grown men to never, ever change.
Or mature or grow up or learn, like you said. And I'm a huge fan of stories, movies, books, etc. Of things not going the way people expect them to. I like the unpredictability of it, and the story not ending on a high note. I love stories that really like hit you in the gut with like a shitty ending. Not
Right.
shitty like shittily made, but like shitty as far as what the result of the story ends up being.
Right. The problem with this movie is that there's never a moment where he looks at the situation he's in and thinks, oh, look at where my actions have gotten me.
Right.
Every situation he's in is like, this person did this and now it's affected me this way.
Now it's my repercussion time.
I'm
yeah.
like, no,
Yep.
you're mad because you had this like master manipulation plan to get everything you wanted if everyone else acted in the way you wanted them to. But guess what? Life is not like that. And
especially not with people's money. Like from every
No.
movie in the history of mob movies, you never get a good ending if you're messing with people's money and life. Like
No.
you don't. I'm sorry.
No. And it's like he never once was like took any kind of responsibility for
Right.
the situations he was in. It was always either somebody else's fault or like, how could this happen to me? This random circumstance. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you keep lying to people. Maybe because you keep trying
Doing
to
really shitty things.
like spending money that you owe other people on gambling. Like, maybe take some responsibility.
There's a lot to learn.
So anyone
from it.
out there who's like him in Uncut Gems, take this as
a
as
crash
sign-
course.
as a crash course of what not to do. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for coming to my Theodore conversation.
Yeah, it was a good movie to choose because I feel like there was a lot to say about it as far as what it had to hold, what story it had to tell.
I think in total, I'm going to give it 3 flicks. One flick is for just, like, originality of the script because, like you said, even though it was very chaotic, it is very unique. And two of the flicks are going just for Idina Menzel's run.
One for each run.
One for each click, clack, click, click on one leg.
I'm honestly, I don't want to give it 1 flick, but I'm gonna give it 2 flicks. One for Idina Menzel, and one for the attempt.
They tried.
They tried, and just overall, it was such an unenjoyable experience, like for me to watch that I couldn't even finish it all. So I don't want to give it 1 because I want to save it for something that's like seriously bad, and I don't feel like this movie is bad. It's just not. It's not what
It's
I
just
thought
not
it was gonna be.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't evoke any emotions that make you want to go back and visit those emotions.
Yeah. Exactly.
It just made me angry and exhausted.
And anxious and yeah, it was a blur, so yeah. That's what I say about that.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to our
the click.
Yes.
The click. Okay. So this episode's click is going to be Wind Waker, a Zelda franchise video game.
I'm so excited.
Me too. This has to be hands down my favorite Zelda game, and I will explain why. Um, I got my first gaming console, which was the GameCube, to myself when it was after my dad had passed away. So I was invoking like a lot of childhood video gaming experiences. So that was the first game I got to play. And it got a lot of shit because of the art style. It was not the typical Legend of Zelda art and gameplay.
So I learned a fun fact about that. About a reason, like a reason why people were expecting different art style. So Space World 2000 was a Zelda demo that came out for GameCube.
Oh, weird.
As a demo. And that had a lot of realistic art. That was very realistic artwork. So people, when the demo came out, people thought that that was a scene from the next Zelda game. So they were expecting Wind Waker to look like Space World 2000.
That makes sense.
When in fact Space World 2000 was just always meant to be a demo.
By itself, yeah.
It wasn't ever intended to be a scene from the next game.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember when it came out and I was asking people to play the game, they're like, no, it is the ugliest game, you know.
But it's really not.
It's not. It's a stunning
so
game.
Cute. And now that's one of like the more popular styles when you look at fan art for Zelda.
Exactly.
Is that so?
It's
their minds.
I appreciate that tidbit of info because that's something I never knew. That is so cool. So to start the story off, you start as Link and you wake up at a watchtower by your sister. Which I think is really unheard of in the Legend of Zelda series. Link didn't have family, so people were like,
Yeah.
okay. So the fact that he had a sister waking him up was so endearing because you're on Outset Island and it is this beautiful, just
Before we
two-portioned.
move on, can I really quick? I want to make sure I know where in the timeline this is at.
So what I was hearing was, and also partially my theory, but this story takes place after Ocarina of Time.
After Majora's
And
Mask?
I would assuming Majora's Mask as well. However, I don't know that tidbit. Don't hold that to me.
Let's see. I'm looking at a timeline.
Yeah, feel free, please. I would like to know.
They're all kind of not good. There it is.
Let's see. Because... Go ahead.
So after Ocarina of Time, it breaks off into different timelines.
Uh-huh.
And Wind Waker is in the timeline, is in a separate timeline. And so it's not after Majora's Mask, but it's right after Ocarina of Time. So it's like a different timeline, and would be around after Majora's Mask, but not, Majora's Mask didn't happen in this timeline.
I see.
Does that make sense? So like the time frame is after, but it Majora's Mask didn't happen in this time.
But it's also it's also broken into categories of the hero is successful and the hero is defeated. And Wind Waker's in the section of hero is successful. So that's really interesting. Yeah, so Majora's Mask is not on that timeline. But yes, so that does have a play in the game later on. I'll reference to it when I get there. But yeah, so Link is woken up by his sister, and you meet their grandma. Now, you know how I am with elderly people. She is the sweet
You're a fan.
little lady. I love her. She's my favorite. She's just a sweet little old lady.
We love Grandma.
We love Grandma. So the whole beginning premise of the story is that Link is coming of age now to get his clothes made by his grandma, so the green suit, the green hat, and they are heading up towards the top of Outset Island, and some pirates come by and end up bringing an enemy with them. In turn, throws one of the pirates from the ship onto the top of the island, so that encourages Link to go up and save her. He finds her, ends up saving her. Her name is Tetra. And the enemy, the big bird with pretty tail, ends up stealing his sister from the top of the mountain. So Link, in like desperation, tries to go and save her, just runs off the cliff. And Tetra's like, nope, like, don't do that.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So her other pirate goons end up climbing up the mountain to find her as well. And they're basically like, hey, we know where that bird's going. You should probably follow us. And he's like, okay, but I got to get my sword and shield first. And so he goes to another elder in the town and gets his sword, which is really cute and endearing. And he also goes to his grandma, and she's crying, and she's like, is she really kidnapped? Is that true? And I'm like, all the emotions in every facet of that, just in this snippet of the entrance of the game. Like, it's heartbreaking. So yeah, he's like, I'm gonna go save her, Graham. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And he ends up getting on their ship to go to Fortress Island, to where that enemy bird is, technically. And you have to sneak around. It's a very, it's a fortress, so there's a lot of goons and goblins around the area. And he makes his way to the top of the island after he was imprisoned because he gets caught a giant pirate ship in the middle of the ocean. You're gonna see it. So he makes his way to the top, realizes that Ganondorf has other kids kidnapped. So it's Link's sister, two other girls in this little like locked cage. Yeah. So he's like, "Don't worry, I'll save you." And Ganondorf's like, "No, get rid of him." He talks to the bird, and the bird just picks him up, flings him into like non-existence almost. But he ends up waking up in water in the ocean, and this boat, this red boat with a lion's face on the front, finds him, but he has no sail. So they end up drifting towards Windfall Island, which is
in this timeline. The reason why it's all sailing is because Hyrule was flooded somehow.
Yep.
How?
I don't know how it came to be flooded. I don't remember. I wonder if
it's after Ocarina of Time. Or if they even had if it just like somehow was flooded, or if they even have something that's canon.
Right. The Great Flood. Turning mountaintops into islands. Yeah. It just said that the people of Hyrule prayed to the goddesses for deliverance, resulting in a great flood.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
From Ganondorf?
Yeah, basically.
Interesting.
Interesting, yeah. Because you do end up going to a temple under the water that you have to actually rise up from the ocean to be able to get into the dungeon. So once Link has the ability to sail, eventually, from Windfall, my favorite island, he goes around and collects all the pearls. So the fire pearl, the earth pearl, and the water pearl, where he meets random NPCs along the way that kind of aid him in his adventure. Some with wings. Some are actually descendants of the Zoras, which is really interesting. And so as he finds all of those pearls to make the cool Zelda thing happen, as what I was, reading about, um, he progresses into another quest to find the rest of the Triforce in order to um, restore basically the King of Lions, um, basically to restore Hyrule and to kill Ganondorf, basically.
Mm.
Um, but the game was just so aesthetically pleasing. It at the end it does get chaotic because of the Triforce. There's just so many maps you have to get and so many,
Mm-hmm.
random quests that take you one way and then you're like, "Oh no, I can't get into that island, so I got to go to the other island." It's a lot, but I think that's part of the fun of that game is just finding out the adventure because you have this giant map the whole game where you're sailing to island and you're basically charting an island of or islands in Hyrule that are uncharted and it's to me there's no greater game than to be able to like explore your own world. That was so like unheard of to have like an open world almost.
Mm.
At that time it was like 2003, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So extremely revolutionary in my opinion.
I feel like there were a few things with this game because technology was so much more kind of advanced so much between N64 and GameCube.
Uh-huh. Definitely.
This game had a lot of things that other Zelda games didn't have, and one
Right.
thing I think was it this game that was introduced where you could connect your Game Boy.
Yes.
And was this the first one that you could do that in?
I don't
I
I
think
don't think it was
so.
the first game, no, but
I
I
mean,
think they were the
of
first to
Zelda
like
games.
capitalize. Oh, yes, of Zelda games
Yeah,
definitely.
because Ocarina of Time definitely couldn't, and Majora's Mask no.
Right.
So
A Master Quest, yeah. Yep, it was to introduce Tingle and his escapades that you can go on within the game,
but
which
then
I did.
but then you could have like if your cousin was over or whatever, they could play with you, and it would join you. They would join
Yeah.
your game without really like affecting like the main plot line or whatever. So
Right.
that it was just like you would still have your game, but then if someone was playing, you could like they could play with you.
In theory, yeah, they didn't have a character or anything that they could like show on the screen or show on the Game Boy. I think it was to find Tingle's hidden treasures and like other maps and stuff
But
that
that's kind of like a revolutionary idea.
100%. I had
It's
it.
kind
It
of
was
like
amazing.
it was kind of like the first like local play.
Yeah, like before the DS. Like
Yeah.
yeah, because once the DS came out and that local like chat came, oh, it was just great.
Mhm.
Um,
Anyway,
yeah, it was called the Tingle Tuner. It was super
yes.
cute. Um, yeah, it says comes equipped with its own map, less detailed than the normal one in game. This map automatically upgrades itself when Link enters an area of the Great Sea. Cool. I haven't played the game in so long. I have my GameCube. I should.
I need to plug in my GameCube.
Yes.
I just moved, so I have to set everything up.
do it. Um, and so sparing the details because it's a very long, like lengthy process, but in part of getting the pearls, you end up going to the Deku Tree sanctuary, if you will. The Deku Tree is under a mountain because the earth has
It's been
flooded.
100 years.
100 years.
Since the Ocarina of Time.
Yes. And so you do go in and you talk to him, which is fantastic. But all of the all of the villagers in Ocarina of Time had turned into Koroks. That's the evolution of the storyline from Ocarina of Time to Wind Waker. But they turn into little tree sprites that talk, and they're the cutest thing in the game.
So, oh my God, yes.
Yeah, and then Makar is like the main tree sprite that you, or main Korok that you end up searching for and looking for, and use him in your travels. But Wind Waker also in the Deku Tree level end up introducing the leaf that you can fly with, which was unheard of in any Legend of Zelda game. It was also revolutionary. And he does get the Wind Waker, the wand, to play music to control the wind. And
fun fact about that is that that's another, that was also, it is revolutionary because they were able to use that technology because of the GameCube.
Yep.
So there weren't a lot of like wind effects in other games. There weren't any things that like things that had to go along with using the wind because that effect just wasn't as easy to do until the GameCube.
And the C stick was always the C stick to me, because not very many games utilize the C stick besides using it for directional purposes. So it was really cool to see a game utilize the entire controller. It was nice.
Yes.
But yeah, the game is so underrated. I know a lot of people recently in the past couple of years have been like, okay, it's not that bad of a game.
People were coming around to it again now.
Yeah. And later on, after the Triforce pieces have start to conglomerate, you're starting to gain traction with the story a little bit now, because a giant chunk of the game is just you figuring out the map, finding the pearls, and starting the process of gaining more information about where Ganondorf is, and talking to the king and trying to like find the hidden temples that are sunken. And it's a huge chunk of the game. So you eventually get to a point where you find out that Tetra is actually Zelda, and she's just basically like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for everything I was doing. But not necessarily, I wouldn't say necessarily a damsel in distress, because she was a dope pirate. You know, transitioning into the princess. And that to me was also great, because it wasn't like a Mario Peach situation. It was the typical Link Zelda situation, which made me happy. But yeah, basically the end of the story, your purpose is to protect Zelda, kill Ganondorf, find his sister. And once all of the puzzle pieces were put together, everything was able to be hunky-dory with the king, and he ended up making, basically having more control over the domain again. And the whole entire Hyrule area was a lot more happy now. Rid of Ganondorf, which was nice. But
in this game, well, does Ganondorf die at the end of this game?
He kills him with a light arrow, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Wind Waker. Wow, Wand Waker? Okay.
He has a wand in this game.
He does have a wand in this game.
It's his instrument. It's technically the only one that's not a real instrument.
Why was I gonna say it was his muse? Why?
It's his muse.
That was like my jerk reaction to say. Yeah, so at the end, once the Triforce pieces are gathered, um, the king wipes away the traces of old Hyrule, and the Triforce vanishes, and as a result, the kingdom, Ganon, and Master Sword are washed away by the ocean. So he doesn't kill him, but the king necessarily wishes him away. So I guess there's plenty more room after that for games to be able to open up and still have Ganondorf in it.
In that timeline.
Right. There's a really endearing scene at the end where Link and Tetra like sail away together. She's on her giant pirate ship, and he's on his tiny little red lion boat, sailing away from Outset. It is just to be reunited with Grammy again. It was just, it was the best.
We love Grandma.
Right. Like, when I was a kid, I was like, I gotta get back to Grandma. Like, of course, I'm worried about the sister, but like, I'm also worried about the grandma. So, there's,
I think I'm just gonna say it. Zelda games are pretty good.
Heck yeah. Did you finish,
No,
wow.
Breath of the Wild.
I started that game. I have not even.
I haven't finished it, but there's so much to it. Oh,
it is.
God.
Another open world Legend of Zelda game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say the one with the moon. Oh my God, I can't remember the name. The one we were talking about, not after Ocarina of Time, it was
Majora's Mask.
Thank you. Golly.
No, I didn't.
I didn't either, but that one, I played a good chunk of it, and I was
game that I finished 100% was Ocarina of Time. I 100%ed that game.
Very nice, as you should. I haven't even beaten the game. I've only ever watched, because when that game came out, it was my brother and my dad playing the game. And then as I got older, when it got re-released for the GameCube, I had it, but I was too young to still figure out the puzzles. I just wasn't as good at it. Like, I had no patience.
I played that game on N64 and 100% it. Then I got the remake for the GameCube and played it there. And then I got it on 3DS again and played it. So I've played it 3 times, but I don't know if I like finished it. Like, I didn't finish it like 100% all 3 times, but the first time I did, because I used to but the reason I did is because I used to, when I would start a new game, I would look up the walkthroughs online, and I would print out all, like, 75 to 100 pages of it and sit there, like, with it like a book.
Yes.
And anytime I would get stuck, I would read from where I was at to, like, all the parts I've gone through and, like, find where I was at, and, like, then I would go back and read to see if I missed anything, and I was like...
During my escapades with Wind Waker, it was a crazy time in my life, but my cousin was very much a big part of my life. So back when we had home telephones, I would sit on the phone with her. I'd just be playing, we wouldn't be talking, but once I come across a puzzle or I didn't know where to go next, I was like, okay, I'm here, now where do I go? Because I didn't have internet
like, walk
either.
you through it.
Yeah, so it was a really good, like, memory, a good bonding experience with that game.
And then the next game I played that I didn't finish after Wind Waker was Phantom Hourglass, which is the sequel for Wind Waker. It's the next one in that timeline.
Oh, okay.
But you're also, it's because the same world, it's flooded. The Hyrule is flooded, so you're still on your ship.
That
Except
is something I need to play. Did they ever re-release it for something else?
it's it was
I wonder.
made for the DS, or I had, yeah, I think it was made for the DS.
I don't remember because I.
But it's definitely like the artwork is like 2D style, like Stardew Valley looking.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Oh, I think I heard about it. I think I know what you're talking about.
so I feel like there's no, I mean, there's no discussion on like, oh, there's no, oh, the artwork. Like, there's no conversation about that because it's literally just nothing.
Yeah,
It's just a game. It's just,
yeah.
so I feel like it was just like it's not talked about because it's not like,
Yeah.
it's not
It
like a
didn't
big
hit
game.
as
It was
big.
just for a small, it wasn't even like a major console. It was like a port handheld. You know what I mean? So,
Right, right. Which I not to like jump tracks, but that's a lot of Final Fantasy things too. Is when they were made for like sequels or prequels were made for the PS2. Even people were like, okay, whatever. Like I don't care, you know.
right.
So that makes
Right.
sense.
So, but Wind Waker, I love the artwork for Wind Waker.
Me too. Me too. And the music
and the
was
thing is
amazing.
the thing is because it's like cartoon Zelda, it makes it feel like it is more accessible to younger players, but the game itself, the puzzles and the the strategies and the everything about the gameplay is still a Zelda game.
Absolutely. And the whole setup, it's it screams the franchise. You know, getting the pearls, getting the Triforce pieces, you know, evolving the Master Sword, like
Which
it's
I
all of
think
it.
which I think if Ocarina of Time had looked more appealing to me when I was a young kid. I mean, I did play it on N64, but it was scary. I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like I was legitimately scared as a child of the like going out at night in the field because
That's so funny that you say that because I felt the same way. I hated going out, you know,
yeah.
where you go out into the
Because
middle
it
of the
was
map.
kind of, and I mean, obviously now looking at it, it looks, the graphics are so silly. Like they
I
do not,
know.
but when you're sitting there seeing them for the first time, you're just like, oh my gosh. And it was like the same way with like Castlevania and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was scary to play those games.
That's so great because you just brought back memories about that. Yeah, I remember distinctly being terrified of
But
that.
then when Wind Waker came out, I'm a little bit older, you know what I mean? And it's
Right,
like,
right.
if I was that age, for it to look like cartoony, then it would, I just feel like it just made it more accessible because there were probably a lot of kids like me who were like, I'm just not going
Yeah.
to play because it's scary, even though it's a fun game. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right. It's just like aesthetically pleasing. It was just all the islands had a story to tell. All of them were beautiful. The music was stunning, especially going into the Deku Tree like forest. That had to be one of the prettiest levels that they made out of the entire game, besides just sailing on the ocean. Oh, just so pretty. I was mesmerized by it as a kid. I think I would easily give this game. I'm gonna say 8 clicks out of 10,
8
easily.
clicks.
Just because it's well made. The graphics never bothered me, and the story was something to be cherished, especially after Ocarina of Time. What would you give it?
I agree. I agree with everything that you said on
Yeah.
this game.
I feel you. I feel you.
I feel like Nintendo does such a good job with their like franchises of keeping them like they care about the integrity of their franchises.
Yeah.
I feel like.
They put
And
a lot of
so
effort.
when like the new Pokemon game comes out or the new Legend of Zelda game comes out or like Mario or whatever, these fans have been loyal from the time we're kids, and the games remain interesting and like fun for us as we grow up.
Yeah.
Because they've always been good games.
Wholesome,
you know what I
too.
mean?
Yeah. And even going into Breath of the Wild now, with how games have evolutionized just in the span of 10 years, which is minute compared to almost being 20 years since Wind Waker was released. Almost.
Wow.
It's just, you're just like, it kind of keeps up with your interest, and then even in your own life experiences, because Breath of the Wild is open world. There's a million things to do. It's hard to play as a child, like as a kid, but you can still play it and enjoy it as a kid.
Yes.
Even though there are a lot of aspects to the game
Yeah.
that would not be.
But it's one of those games that if you're a young kid and it was like your dad is playing it or
Yep.
your mom is playing it, you can
Yep.
easily sit next to them and watch it and be like excited.
Enthralled by it.
Right. And not have to be like, go to the other room.
Right.
I'm gonna shoot a sex worker or something. Like, I've never played Grand Theft Auto, but I've heard that's what you do.
Like, that's the thing. That's Grand Theft Auto's selling point. Jesus.
Not to bash on any other,
Any other video game.
not to hate on any other franchises. We're just here to uplift Zelda.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely on a pedestal for me, and it always will be.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
For
Well, that
sure.
was fun.
Yes.
I enjoyed this episode a lot.
Me too. Oh my gosh. We talked about something we really didn't like, and then we talked about something we really did like. So.
We're really passionate about, yeah. Yeah, it was a good balance between the two, for sure.
Yeah. This was fun. I'm excited.
Me too.
Well, thanks for listening, whoever heard that.
Yes.
We appreciate you for listening to us talk. Next time you feel like clicking and flicking,
Click and flick away.
check out your favorite girls.
You girls over here.
Over here at the Click and Flick podcast.
Bada bing. Yes.